Welcome to another episode of Meet the Author Live from book publisher New Degree Press, or NDP. I'm your host, John Saunders. NDP is part of Manuscripts, Inc. This enterprise has now published authors on 6 continents and earned a spot on the Inc. magazine 5,000 list for the second year in a row. This is a list of the fastest growing privately held companies in America. Extraordinary story. Think you have a book in you? Want to start or accelerate your movement in the next 12 to 15 months? Visit manuscriptsinc.com to learn more. The cohorts start throughout the year. This is a comprehensive coaching program that will take you from idea to published book. Not just published, but published like a second-time author, which includes audience creation and activation. Today, we're doing a new segment of Meet the Author Live. This is an opportunity to learn everything valuable there is to know about the author, and we can answer your questions in the chat. So to start, please drop in the chat where you're joining us from. We'd love to see where our listeners are calling in from today, or joining us from on LinkedIn Live or YouTube Live, wherever you might be joining us from. You can also drop questions in the chat as we go and comments for Hannah, so please do that as well. So today I have with me brand new author and coach Hannah Austin, who published her book just a few weeks ago, already a bestseller. Congratulations. We'll talk more about that. She has a new podcast episode out from New Degree Press, the Creator Community, that will be premiering in just a couple of weeks. And she has been embarking on quite a nationwide media tour we'll talk about here in just a minute. Quick bio on Hannah, and we'll dive into it. Hannah Morgan Austin. Is it just me, or does that sound like a superhero name? I'm just going to put it out there. Is a highly sought after corporate leader and management professional specializing in management and prevention of burnout for professionals. If anyone can speak to the story, it is definitely her. During her 20 years as an executive in the healthcare industry, she faced immense pressure in her own role, as well as witnessed her colleagues suffering from burnout en masse. This made her determined to make a change that would not only impact her path in life, but that of many inspiring professionals that she knew. She founded SheShatters in 2021 with the goal of helping employees and managers find a balance between their professional and personal lives, and on a macro level, leading a movement away from corporate hustle culture. Wow. Hannah, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
It is my pleasure. So let's start with my favorite question. How does it feel to have a book out there with a name on it, available wherever you can buy books online?
It's a dream come true. I mean, this is 40 years in the making. I've wanted to write a book since I was 4 years old, being a young girl, writing, small little books and sending them to my mom or dad, or sharing them with family and friends. But everyone who knows me says, you're going to write a book someday. We just don't know what it's going to be. So 40 years in the making, the dream is coming true. And I'm happy to announce, I actually just got a note today from my marketing team that we hit bestseller again. So super, super excited about that. We dropped the paperback 2 days ago, and we dropped the ebook last month. So I'm just happy that it's been resonating with everyone, John. It feels really good.
That is amazing. Well, having heard your story on the podcast, which will be out very soon on New Degree Press, the Creator Community, I can see why. We have quite a group joining us here today. Look at this. We've got Bill Gilmore from Midlothian, Virginia.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for joining us. Diane Spindler from Mass. Let's see. Hannah, somebody from Connecticut. I think came in as LinkedIn user. Suzanne Roski. Hey, Suzanne. Thanks for joining us. Oh, all the way from Uganda. Kevin, hello.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for joining us. Kevin was our host when we went to Uganda this summer with Let's Go Gorilla Safari. Artist, excuse me, from Baja. Oh, I wonder, does Suzanne know her? Is there a connection here?
No, I know her. She's a good family friend of mine.
I guess that's the other end of Mexico from where Suzanne was. That's awesome. Sumana, hello from Calgary. Love Banff. Sumana, thanks for joining us. Eugene, Oregon. Mark Timmerman, thanks for jumping on here. Man, people are fired up to see you here this morning. Hannah Austin, what is your favorite book chapter? Oh, we've already got a question for you there. And Hannah, rocket. Well, that's the plan here, Pascal. Come on. Mr. Austin from Colorado.
My Uncle Rob. Woo!
Keep dropping your thoughts in the chat here. We'll appreciate it. Do you want to address Samana's question here? Should we start with that one? Your favorite chapter?
Yes. I leave it to Samana, always put me on the spot, but thank you, girl. So I have the book here. I just got the physical copies, and Samana, you'll be getting yours. But my absolute favorite chapter is chapter 18, Letter to Myself. And funny story, I'm having a book launch party in person on February 23rd, and Thinking Tree Cocktails is sponsoring it, and we've named the cocktail Letter to Myself. So there's a special gift for everybody who's coming to the in-person book launch party. But that is my favorite chapter, Sumana, and I'll tell you offline as to why.
A letter to myself. Thank you for that question. Sumana, please continue to drop them in there. We will try to answer them as we go. Hannah, let's get back to your author journey here. What the heck was that like for you? You're a busy person, entrepreneur. How the heck did you get a book done? What was that like for you?
Because it was such a priority, I made it a priority, right? So many things in life, if it's not a priority for you, you're putting it on the back burner. So for me, it was really around having the accountability to finish the book, right? I've been writing in my journal, dictating on Otter, and kind of having journals of what my burnout story was like, what was going on in my life at the time. And turning that into a book, John, was very cathartic for me. But the only reason why I was able to actually finish it was because of the community. Many of them are on the line now, but the community of people with Georgetown University and New Degree Press, and the Creator podcast, everyone who's super supportive down the road, who has really supported me during my journey and held me accountable and said, how's chapter 1? How's chapter 2 going? And how can I help you? And the people that I've interviewed during this book journey really kept me going and kept my soul ignited, per se, to finish those chapters, because it didn't just become my story. It was a story from around the globe. And when you read it, you'll realize, whether you're in Uganda, whether you're in Baja, like the themes of burnout are systemic.
I mean, so true. And your story is unbelievable. Going from, I'll very broadly say, to not be a spoiler here for folks, but going from essentially the bottom of the barrel, literally on the floor, to where you are now is just extraordinary. Hannah shares that entire story on the podcast and certainly in her book. But wow. So let's delve into that a bit. The community supported you. It's great to have all these people around you. Could not agree with you more. As we often say around here, never write alone. What do you think you learned about yourself through this journey? What further discovery did you get?
I learned how to be vulnerable. I learned how to ask for help. Being a manager and leader, so many of you are on the phone and you're in the professional environment. You show up to work a little bit differently than you are in your personal life, right? Because we have to be professional. But my biggest mistake when I worked in healthcare was not being vulnerable to my staff and community and saying I'm hurting as well, right? I was burning out during COVID. I had burned out years before, but everyone had seen the exterior of Hannah's very smiley. She has a great personality. She's fun. She's a practical jokester. But inside, I was slowly dying, John, right? I was slowly, my health was deteriorating. I wasn't feeling well. I was showing up to work sick, but nobody knew it because I wasn't showing it. And I think it's really important that, people realize that you have to show who you truly are in all facets of you and bringing your whole self to work.
Wow. You said a lot in just a couple of sentences there, and it's so powerful. And I love that this vulnerability issue even transcended more deeply and further for you going through the book journey, because it is a vulnerable experience. We, many of us in this program, it is our first book, sometimes second, but usually first. And, it's definitely, you don't know what you don't know. And when you learn and grow with others, it just makes the process, the journey, so much more meaningful and I think more impactful for all of us. That is fantastic. Would you write another book, Hannah?
I actually had 2 books going simultaneously, John. So for many of you who know me, when I was a young girl, my parents quit their jobs when I was 6 and then again at 10, and we traveled around the world for several years. So I have experiences that a lot of only children do not, or kids in general do not. So I've been writing a book called The Citizen of the World for several years. And it's another Word document in my private folder that I just kind of, write about every time I get inspired. And I have my mom's journals, John, from our travels. So from the 80s, wow, the 90s, she's writing about traveling to Africa. She's writing about traveling to Thailand, and seeing me through her words on the paper as a young girl, it's brought back a lot of memories. And my goal would be to travel to those same areas to write what it's like to be a kid and then now an adult. And that may be book 2.
Wow. That is an incredible backdrop you have behind you. And you make me think of actually Rick Roth's book, The Teal Book of Wisdom, which I don't know if you've read that, but he's an author through this program. Similar idea there, where his grandfather was capturing these notes and he made his own version of it. I just finished it. Actually, it's a beautiful book. Can't wait to read number 2. Hannah, I already have number 1. I'm about 3 chapters into it. I've really enjoyed it. But man, that story of you kicking off is where this whole thing kind of hit the low for you is mind blowing. And we'll tease that out a little bit here in a minute. But the book's out. You've been doing this incredible tour promoting the book. How's that going so far? What's happening with your media events?
Yeah, so yesterday was the first live book tour. I did a radio tour across the country. I started at 4:30 in the morning yesterday. I met
Pacific.
with Pacific. We talked to Atlanta, Georgia, Nevada, New York, Ohio, Dallas, Texas, Seattle, and Providence, Rhode Island. So we had a really, really busy day of 11 interviews in like 2 hours. And it was awesome. I'm hearing from the world that this book is resonating with them. I'm hearing from ages of 20 years old to my latest reader right now is 80 years old, who's managing me and messaging me and saying, this book is helping me change my life. I'm thinking and rethinking about retirement. So it's really exciting to hear and see and feel that this book is resonating with folks.
That is amazing. So nationwide radio tour off and running. And I know you've got a bunch of other events coming up. If you want to learn more about Hannah and her story, you can see her website, SheShatters.com, going across the page here, and Hannah Austin, SheShatters on LinkedIn. And of course, her book, Hello, Head, Meet Heart, is available wherever you buy books online and is already a bestseller on Amazon. Congratulations on the extraordinary start you've had to this journey. Let's get, before we jump into the rapid fire questions, and if you have others, by all means, drop them in there. We have a couple we'll get to here in a second, but I want to get one other story out there, Hannah, that I think is great for listeners to hear. What drove you to write this book?
Oh, great question. So many of you guys know I've been in the healthcare industry for 20 plus years, and I loved my career. It was going well for so long, but inside, slowly around the last 2 years, I was feeling depleted, uninspired. Right before COVID, I was kind of feeling like, I had lost my spark, right? There wasn't that innovation that was inside me for so many years. And I wasn't sure what it was, but I just keep going like many of us. And fast forward to COVID, many of us in healthcare were working 50, 60 hours. I was tasked on a task force, building some outside hospitals ready for COVID. And it just became too much for me, right? So I actually collapsed in one of the hospitals that I had worked in, right? So it was it was a very cathartic moment. I drove myself to the hospital thinking, like we always do, I'm just going to drive myself to the hospital. And I got there and didn't tell my husband. I got to the hospital and emergency room and I'm like, something's wrong with me. I'm not doing well. Like I felt the worst I've ever felt in my entire life. And the doctor, who of course I know because we worked together, said to me, Hannah, what are you doing? You're killing yourself. And I was diagnosed with a variety of things at the age of 41 and it scared me. I had high blood pressure off the charts. They were worried I was going to have a heart attack or stroke. And they said, why are you doing this to yourself? And that was a pivot point, John, where it was like, I can't go on like this anymore. But guess what I did? I kept going on. I showed up to work the next day. I didn't tell anyone what was going on. I didn't tell anyone that I was in the hospital. I just showed up to work. And that was a bad idea, right? It was a bad idea. But I thought to myself, how can I raise the white flag or say I need help when people are dying of COVID? We're in the middle of a pandemic. I need to be there. And so I felt a sense of responsibility like many of us do in healthcare. And I just said, F you to myself and showed up to work and kept working. Fast forward a couple weeks later, John, I collapsed on my bathroom floor. I was at my breaking point. I said to God, I don't want to live anymore. I was borderline suicidal. I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to live. And it was that moment where I shared my innermost, deepest concerns with my husband. And he said, you need to be done. This isn't worth it. Nothing is worth your sanity, your life. And you need to walk away. And so I resigned from my years of healthcare, my job, my community, my company, all of my friends and my patients to save myself.
I guess the analogy you often hear is you hit a wall. I guess in this case, you hit the floor, right? In this,
Yeah.
Unbelievable story. Said F you to yourself.
Yeah.
All this time, right? Always thinking of others first, working, pushing, helping this business grow, supporting your team. And where did it get you? On the bathroom floor, wondering, is it worth being here at all?
Right.
Unbelievable. And now think about this transition you've made that you talk about in your book, going from on the bathroom floor considering suicide to extraordinary, which is just unbelievable. And I want to just share, I'm going to drop in the chat here real quick. If you want to hear a full version of this story, a longer version of it, I just dropped Hannah's podcast episode in here, which will drop in about a week or so to hear the rest of that story. It is absolutely mind-blowing. And there was a thought you had that day that you talk about in the podcast. Should we share it here? What do you think?
Yeah.
You said, I realized, you had a realization, right? When you were
Yes.
laying on the bathroom floor.
Yes.
I think I'm going to get this right, unless Tell me if I get it right. You said something to the effect of, I realized I didn't want to die. I wanted this version of my life to end. Is that?
Yes, yes. I didn't want to end my life. I wanted the life I was living to end. And those are two different things. If you talk to people with a lot of suicidal ideation, I mean, it's ironic to me because I am the least suicidal ideation person that anyone would think, right? But watch out for those people. Those people that are super happy on the outside, sometimes they can be a mess on the inside. So we do need TLC too. We do need someone to say, are you okay as well? When you're holding up the world on your shoulders, right? But for me, John, it was a realization that I just couldn't do that anymore. This wasn't the life that I wanted to live anymore. And so the hardest part, John, is what's next? My whole life was going to be working at Kaiser Permanente. I was planning on retiring from there. Like, that was my dream job. And it was a dream for so long. But what do we do when your dream dies inside you? What if your dream is no longer an option for you? For me, it was a physical problem, right? I worked myself to death. But what do you do when you're at that pivot point where you have a divorce, you lose someone you love, you lose your identity, you lose your job? Where do you go from there? And so walking away from this job and quitting with having nothing else in mind other than to take care of my physical body, that leaned me towards what's next and exploring the extraordinary, which is what, Hello Head Meet Heart is all about. When you're at your darkest moment on the bathroom floor or after a divorce or someone in your life dies, where do you go from here?
Absolutely incredible. That story, you gave me chills when you shared that thought, as you do every time I've heard it, which is, right, I wanted this version of my life to end. And to have that awareness, how do you think you found that awareness in that moment? I can only imagine the pain you were feeling as you laid on the floor thinking, this is it. Where do you think you found that power, that strength to find that awareness?
I think it was that small ember of fire. So, one of my taglines with SheShatters is burn bright, but don't burn out. My spark wasn't burned out yet. There was a glimmer of something in my heart that was like, you can do it. You can move forward, in my inner voice. And I had silenced that inner voice for so long, John. I was in the hospital. I kept saying F you to myself. I went to work. I kept moving forward. I mean, how many of us women and men in general just don't have the possibility or think we have the possibility to stop, pause, and reset? We just have to keep going. We just have to keep living our life. It is only in those moments on the bathroom floor, only in those moments of silence or pure silence when you can listen to your inner self. And that's a huge lesson.
Wow. I mean, such powerful lessons in this story, in this book. I just dropped the link into order Hannah's book. If you'd like to get a copy, it's available, ebook, hard copy, paperback available today. I think there's maybe a hard copy coming out in a few months. But what an unbelievable story filled with lessons, trials and tribulations. But at the end of the day, helping people understand that, no matter how bad things get, there is a way forward, but you have to find it. And you're not going to find it if you're on the hamster wheel running 100 hours a week, I think is what I'm hearing. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. And I think there's times to run on the hamster wheel, but then there's definitely times to get off and recharge.
Totally agree. Couple other quick notes I want to grab in the chat here. If you have other questions, throw them in here because we're going to run to the rapid fire questions here in just a minute in our last 12 minutes or so here left and go from there. I think I missed a few of these chats here. Sumana jumped in there again. She's really enjoying your thoughts here. Krista Powers from Covington, right across the river from good old Cincinnati. For those who may not know, Sumana, love it, jumping on the chat here. Let's see. What is the biggest organizational barriers? What are the biggest organizational barriers to burnout prevention? I know you teach organizations. Have you seen something during your training?
Great question, Samana. So one of the biggest things I hear from working with women and working with organizations across the country is we don't have the time or money to invest in a lot of these trainings. Although they've flown me all the way from Portland, Oregon to a Delaware or to a Philadelphia where they say, fix our employees, make them want to stay, prevent burnout. And when I talk to the CEOs and the founders of these companies, they say to me, we just need to stop the bleeding. People are leaving left and right. And so I asked them, what have you done? Have you done a 360 evaluation? What have you guys done to talk with your employees about what wellness is and have a frank discussion of, is this working in our company? And are you utilizing the people who are doing the job and doing the work to create new systems instead of top-down approaches? So Samana, to answer your question. I think the biggest organizational barrier is not being open to the current landscape, not asking the employees what they need, and instead building programs, processes in isolation, maybe with a discombobulated or disjointed HR team. And, senior leadership sometimes is in this room, HR's and sometimes in this room. Then they decide to hire a people services manager and throw a $200K job at, one person to fix it. That's not the answer. The answer is the organization coming together, asking the employees, what is the heartbeat and soul of this company? You, right? It's a living, breathing organism. And then what ideas do you have as employees to create new systems, new ways, new approaches? And by the way, if you are interested in being part of the task force for wellness, you're on it, right? Asking the employees, empowering them. This is not new information, but I feel like we get it wrong time and time again when we're not empowering the people that are doing the work to keep the organization well. It is all of our responsibilities as employees, managers, CEOs to keep the organization well.
I love that you brought that word in, empower, right? That is such a big part of your theme here, right? When we just sort of throw things at people and say, hey, here's what we're doing. I know the last 3 years have been a mess with COVID or whatnot. Here's our new plan. Take it or leave it, right? So often the case, and not getting the stakeholders involved. And so thank you for putting that question there, Sumana. Look at her. She is so on it today. Regular audit of systems and processes. Love it. Leanne jumped on here too, enjoying the book from Colorado. Well done. Amazing. Achieve it. Thank you for that, Leanne. All right, Hannah, you ready to dive into the rapid fire questions? This is my favorite part where people really get to learn everything there is to know about you. Should we dive in? Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. I'm rolling.
All right. In case you missed it, as I said, Hannah's podcast is available today, wherever you, it will be available next week, wherever you buy podcasts or consume podcasts. It's free. And it's just an absolutely extraordinary extension of this conversation we're having right now. And it was so fun to get a chance to interview you. So thank you again for being on that show.
Yeah, thank you.
So first question, Hannah, and I think probably the most important, favorite sandwich?
Club sandwich on wheat, 4 layers, lots of mayonnaise.
Extra bacon. I'm just
Nope.
starting to dream about my lunch now. Favorite color?
Blue.
Amazing. Favorite or most memorable vacation spot?
Well, those of you who know me know I'm on vacation pretty much every week, it seems like, but I would say Mexico or Greece. I'm a big travel girl. Love being by the ocean.
Awesome. Scariest animal in your life?
Well, I'm from Alaska, so it's got to be bears, right? So that's a big common occurrence.
They don't mess around. Better
No.
fruit, Hannah, apples or bananas?
Well, I know you like apples, but I'm going to be a Republican or Democrat today and say something opposite, which is bananas.
Again, going to have to agree to disagree. Guests lately have been just so wrong. I don't know what it is. Favorite or most memorable movie?
Oh, gosh. I'm literally a woman of the 80s. So I would say 16 Candles or the original Top Gun.
So good. Oh, Maverick? No. This next question here is always one I really feel like gets us to understand people. First concert you went to?
Beach Boys, I believe in the Denver Broncos Stadium. Shout out to my uncle in Colorado if he's still on. It was incredible.
That is awesome. Favorite smell?
Plumeria in the tropics.
Plumeria?
Yeah, the flower, plumeria.
All right, I was asking for someone else because I clearly know what that is. Last photo on your phone?
Ooh, my husband took a picture last night of me signing, I think, VIP author copies. So I signed 240 books last night. So my hand this morning was like,
God, kind of. This has been a rough couple days for you. All the interviews, the signing.
yeah.
Well, signing all those books is not easy. It's a project. Favorite song to sing with or without an audience?
Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice. Many of you know me if I've had a couple cocktails. I can rap. Like I'm a white girl. I can rap.
I feel like we need to party together, Hannah. I'm just going to put it out there. What is one thing you own you really should throw out?
Well, I was thinking about this question. I wanted to put something that I thought the audience would be like, oh yeah, but really, to be fully honest with you, because I'm working on being honest and authenticity, my size 4 jeans that I have been dying to fit into, but I will never be a single digit again. So I'm just going to put it out there for the ladies on the call, size 4 jeans that I'm just never going to fit into.
Maybe a burning party. Burning? Yeah. You've done a lot already in 2023, and we're just a month or so into it. What is your most audacious goal for this year, my friend?
Well, it was to become a bestseller, which we've done. So I actually keep refreshing Amazon. I'm like, and I actually emailed them. I'm like, is this right? Is this true? So please justify, because it was a big goal. But for me, it's really to spread the movement and spread the message of Hello Head Meet Heart. But if you were to nail me down for an actual answer, it would be, I want to be on the Today Show. I really want to meet Hoda and Susanna. So Savannah, excuse me.
Well, you are currently, I've just pulled up Amazon right now. As of this moment, you're number 1 in relational databases, number 6 in occupational organizational psychology, number 14 in health insurance books, and a number 1 seller in a couple different categories, a new bestseller. That is fantastic. Well,
I don't know how I got in that category. I don't even know what relational databases is, but I'll take it.
Well, some of them you get to pick, and some of them Amazon assigns based on their magic. Right. So good for you. That is what an incredible start to the journey. So you've signed all these books now, Hannah. Have you ever asked anyone for their autograph?
Yes, I asked Cheryl Crow at the Gorge, for those of you who live in Washington, Oregon.
Columbia River.
I actually got it. And she's short. I mean, I'm 4'11". She's like 4'9". So I was like looking down at her. It was weird. So she was really special.
Was she kite surfing? What's she doing out there?
No, she was doing a concert. She plays at the Gorge.
When I think of the Gorge, I think of the place in Hood River where you go like windsurfing and kite surfing.
There's an amphitheater. Yeah.
I did not know that. Amazing. Let's see. Favorite, I want to say favorite, but what's a praise quote at the back of your book you'd love to share with our listeners here? I know you got several amazing ones.
I got a message on LinkedIn the other day, not on LinkedIn, on Instagram the other day, and it says, finally, a self-help book that actually helps. And it was just a bunch of exclamation marks. So I thought that was like a cheeky, cute quote, but it's true. I mean, I didn't want to write a book that I had to put under the self-help section if it wasn't going to help anybody. So I'm glad that it's resonating with folks.
I feel like that person needs to put that one on Amazon and share that a little bit more broadly. That's incredible.
Yeah.
As you went through and did your writing, what was your favorite location to write in?
During the pandemic, my husband and I bought a small, like 800 square foot cabin in Black Butte, which is outside of Sisters, Oregon. And it's a very small cabin. There's a wood stove overlooking a small little lake pond. And so I wear my comfies, have my laptop and a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and just look out at the lake and just let it rip. Just write down everything that's on my heart.
Nice. I love that. Good to get away. So we often joke that, the cabin in the woods to write a book is really fiction, but in this case, you figured that into the story a little bit. That's awesome. What would you say to those considering writing a book?
Do it. Do it now. It's like, your MBA program or going to college, you wish you would have done it sooner, right? And so, do it scared, right? I was terrified when I hit, send, or when I applied for this program. And I can't imagine my life not doing it. So do it scared, do it now. Start talking with family and friends. If you have a question about writing a book or the process or the best way to do it, ping me. I'm available to you day and night. I want to make sure you feel the feeling that I'm feeling right now. And then the other tip is just get Otter. It's a app that you can get, and it's a dictation device, and you can just speak in your phone. And so you can just start journaling what's on your heart, or journal, start talking about a book that you want to write, and start that way. And then it'll be able to copy and edit paste on a Word document, and then just save that on your desktop. If you have a break or lunch at work, just start writing. And don't judge what you're writing. Just put it down on the page, hit save, and put it in a folder. But at least it's a great avenue and a vehicle to get that out of your head and your heart.
Right? You can't edit a blank page, right? And no book is ever released on its first draft, right? You get it down, you edit it, you work with the team, and you make it happen. What great advice. Hannah, how would you describe your writing journey in 5 words?
Emotional, cathartic, powerful, loving, extraordinary, and delightful.
Going to call that 6, but hey, who's counting? Did I count wrong? I don't know. We'll have to go back to the replay, but what an amazing story it has been for you. This book, Hello Head Meets Heart. Closing thoughts for our listeners here, Hannah. I see we're already at the top of the hour.
Yeah, well, that went fast. I just want our listeners to know I'm speaking from my heart to yours. I know what it's like to feel like you feeling stuck, or you're lost, or you want to do something, but you don't know where to start. And so I would just implore you to take that next step, right? Talk with a friend, pick up a copy of the book. It's 99 cents on Amazon, and start journaling and thinking about what it is that you do want. And it's a terrible feeling to feel burned out. I know what it's like. And don't let yourself get to that dark moment before you find that flame and reignite it inside you. So take the risk, take the chance, and don't settle for an ordinary life. You can have more, and you deserve more.
Growth does not happen inside our comfort zone, does it? And I love that you thought there, go out and be afraid, go do something you're scared of. And I couldn't agree more. What a great experience. Going to jump on a couple other quick thoughts in the chat here. Sumana on fire today. Thank you for jumping in here. Kevin, all the way from Uganda, jumping in. He was a great host for us in a book launch this summer with Lisa Randolph, Krista Powers. Let's see, what is the value of celebrating both personally and professionally now that you have celebrated this amazing milestone? Quick answer for that one before we jump.
I've celebrated by just thanking my readers, thanking my beta readers, thanking my listeners. This is a win for all of us, right? Everyone who got me here to this moment, including you, Krista, this is a win for all of us. So thank you, my friend.
One last thought from your dear friend, Sumana. We're going to save this one for next time, but thank you for the inspiration here. Sumana, girl rap now. Love it. Hannah, amazing to see you. Thanks for jumping on here today. Thank you for all of our listeners out there for joining this episode of Meet the Author Live. Definitely go check out Hannah's book, Hello, Head, Meet Heart, wherever you buy books online, and look for her media tour. She's going to be that's going to be out there in the next couple of days as she's done this radio tour. I'm sure she'll be sharing recordings. And you can see her full episode of the Creator Community on YouTube, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Join us tomorrow right here at 12 noon Eastern to meet Jason Patton and hear about his story, Humanly Possible, to create in his work on making our world more inclusive every day. Hannah, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, John.
I'm your host of the Creative Community. I'm your host of the Creative Community, John Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep creating.